I have the pleasure of introducing our Convocation keynote speaker, Mr. Paul Rand, the President and CEO of Zocalo Group, an award-winning word-of-mouth and social media marketing agency. In your program, there is a detailed bio of Mr. Rand and his career accomplishments. Most notably, he is the immediate past president and current board member of the Word of Mouth Marketing Association. He's the organizer of the 2011 Social Media Week, and as described by his team at Zocalo, who I happened to send a quick email to, he's the hardest working man they know. As I read through these impressive paragraphs, I had an IMC moment. I would be remiss if I didn't consider today's audience, our families and friends, who may not know what word-of-mouth marketing advertising means. So to translate, Mr. Rand leads a company that focuses on listening to what is being said in the social media sphere. And then, on behalf of their clients, they engage them in meaningful conversations that inevitably makes the brand stronger. And because it makes the brand stronger because the consumers are the one who are talking about it. So see, Mom and Dad, I did become a better listener after being in grad school. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Paul Rand.
Hi, everybody. Awful nice to be with you here today. It's a real honor and recognizing a lot of familiar faces. I think you probably know this and you're hearing it in so many ways that you are graduating from one of the world's leading universities with a degree that is recognized and respected in the marketing industry, the communications industry, and as you're hearing throughout the world. A number of my colleagues at Zocalo Group are IMC graduates, and each of them, interestingly, shares some very similar defining characteristics. They're smart, they're curious, they're passionate, and best of all, they operate with a get-it-done urgency. And I'm willing to bet a lot applies to the same, all of you. So I know that you've received a top-notch education and you have the fortitude to make your career and your life really count. But before you take off, which is coming very quickly, I'd like to share what I think is a very simple yet incredibly powerful insight with you. Hopefully, the final lesson that you're going to be taking away from this institution. If you follow this insight, you will never go astray personally. You will become one of the most sought-after marketers around. If you follow this insight, you will have a roadmap for life. You will save thousands of dollars in therapy bills. You'll have a clear sense of purpose. If you follow this insight, you'll be able to develop precise and impactful marketing strategies. You'll shape brands and guide organizations, not follow, as we simply heard. It's quite a build-up, isn't it? I can't wait to hear what I'm going to say. So here it is. Live a recommendable life. Let me say it again. If you want to succeed personally and professionally, live a recommendable life. Let me tell you a little bit about what I mean on that. I'm here with you today because of a recommendation. 5 years ago, someone recommended me as a guest speaker to Tom Collinger. And when IMC was looking for a communication speaker, Tom Collinger threw my name into the mix. That's another recommendation. All of you are probably familiar with the Nielsen Company. About 2 weeks ago, they actually did a very compelling study and they published it. And they said 92% of all the respondents said, 92%, that a positive recommendation from a friend, a family member, or someone they trust is the biggest influence on whether they buy a product or service. In comparison, only 42% trust radio advertising and 58% trust editorial content. Think of that. 92% say it's the most important part of their marketing mix. Interestingly, and maybe unfortunately, the opposite also holds true. In fact, 67% of respondents in another study said that seeing as few as 3 negative reviews was enough for them not to buy a product or a service. All that good marketing and work can go away if less than 3 negative reviews come out there. So recommendations and word of mouth have always been important. But in the age of social media, they're absolutely essential. One-to-one communications has become one to millions. Trips to Thailand get posted on Facebook. Word of mouth is now on steroids. This change, of course, is profoundly affecting the marketing world. How a product or a service is talked about and recommended is becoming one of the most recognized, if not the most important element of the overall marketing mix. This change also affects our personal lives. You might have seen a story that showed up just 2 days ago in Business Week. Interesting timing, right? The point was, college graduates' best job bet. The answer was word of mouth. At least half of all jobs, the article pointed out, come from referrals from friends, families, and colleagues. And what matters most, this author attributed to, was having a strong personal recommendation. It doesn't apply to all of us as students, it applies to all of us as human beings as well. So today, I'm going to tell you to think about yourselves as a brand. A brand that is worthy of a passionate recommendation by your friends, by your family, and by your coworkers. You know, some of the most brilliant minds in marketing can argue incessantly about marketing strategy. But you ask them how they want their product to be talked about and recommended, and they get focused very, very quickly. That clear purpose should drive all marketing strategies. It most certainly drives search. It drives product differentiation. It drives people to buy or not to buy, and it's extraordinarily measurable. I can tell you from working with some of the world's leading brands that word of mouth does not happen by accident. It's the result of a deliberate strategy and consistent day-to-day and year-to-year execution. That same insight applies to each one of your lives. Chances are you counted on recommendations from professors and employers to get into the IMC program. Same thing for getting a job after graduation. What's most compelling to me about all this, though, is that the same foundations that are driving recommendations for brands are almost identical. Those are driving personal recommendations, those that we talked about at the beginning. So after many, many years of learning how to influence recommendations and shape word of mouth, I'd like to leave you with 5 key lessons, the insight that I'm hoping you walk out with today. Number 1, develop a clear and purposeful story of how you want people to talk about you and recommend you and the brands that you represent. It's a simple question that needs to be answered. How do you want to be talked about and recommended? As a person, as a son or daughter, as a parent, as a grandchild, as a friend, a partner, a spouse, an employee, a child of God, a business leader, whatever the case. How do you want people to talk about you? And that you're deliberate about it, not that you're just letting it happen. And that same thing, of course, applies to any part that we do in marketing. Buyers today have a staggering amount of choices. Why would someone recommend your brand or product or service over another? Number 2, live your brand. It's as simple as that. If you want to be recommended as a thoughtful and caring friend, and I saw some of that demonstrated a short while ago, that the speaker before me is tearing up as she's straying. That's a thoughtful friend that's connecting with each of you. Make sure you are always a thoughtful and caring friend. If you want your brand to be recommended for having the most advanced features and design, make sure your energy and focus goes into making sure that you own that role and that you're not ceding it to any of your competitors. Number 3, be human. Be transparent and live up to the mistakes that you make in your life and in business quickly. Yes, we all need to live our brands, but we're human beings. And our brands and our organizations are run by human beings. So we and our brands will occasionally veer off course and make mistakes. And in this era of social media, consumer journalism, and always-on news, years of thoughtfully lived lives or well-managed brands can be undone in astonishingly short order. You see it happening every day. So own it. If your brand goofs up, or if you goof up, fix what you can and ask for forgiveness later. Number 4, stay engaging and stay interesting. You ever been cornered at a party by the bore? I think we all can. They drone on and on about themselves. They don't ask you any questions, and they seem oblivious to anyone's needs but their own. You know, marketing success used to be defined by how well we could interrupt people and compel us to give them their attention. As you've heard earlier, the world that we're operating of marketing is changing dramatically. Success today is very different in the marketing and communications world. It's based on how well we engage our audiences before, during, and after the sale. Imagine that all the way through is what matters and what our job's about. This doesn't happen by accident. At my organization, we often talk to brands about following the 90-10 rule. Spend 90% of your time on your social channels, listening, paying attention, and engaging with your consumers on their own terms, and 10% of your time talking about yourself. That's really not a bad approach for life either. You'll get a lot further. And finally, number 5, regularly evaluate and evolve, but stay true to your core. You know, people and brands must always evolve, and markets change. Take the time to be introspective while you're living life and being recommended in the way that you want to be. It's good, actually it's essential to evolve, to change, and to grow. Same thing for the brands and the companies that we represent. But don't let these changes happen by accident or get forced into them. Then it's often too late. Take ownership of your life and your brands with the idea that I'm very clear how I want people to talk about me. You know, it's probably a few years old, maybe to some of you, but certainly not to some of the parents in the audience. Anybody remember the movie Saving Private Ryan? Great movie, right? And as the story goes, all of Private Ryan's brothers had been killed in World War II. A team of soldiers that was led by Tom Hanks was sent to retrieve the private before he too was killed, and his mother had no more sons. After many dramatic encounters and lives lost, there's a fierce final battle. And Hanks is seriously wounded. And with his dying breath, Hanks looks at the private and says, "James, earn this. Earn it." In the ending scene, Private Ryan is an old man. He and his adult children and grandchildren have gone to Arlington National Cemetery, and they pay respect to Hanks's character. The private looks at his wife and says, "Please tell me that I'm a good man, that I'm a good husband and a good father, that I earned being saved." In other words, what he really wanted to know was whether or not he had lived a recommendable life. Being recommendable is very commendable for all of us and essential for the brands that we represent. Congratulations, you guys. It's a very hard-earned goal, and what you have accomplished so far is absolutely amazing, and I'm willing to bet that each of you have just begun. Now go and create your own recommendable lives.
That was terrific.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.